Their bodies tangled together like a fever neither wanted to break. His fingers traced the curve of her spine while her breath came in gasps against his neck. The kiss was raw and urgent, all teeth and desperation, tasting like risk and inevitability. Clothes scattered like abandoned promises across the darkened room. Skin met skin in the shadow of expensive furniture and dangerous secrets. Hearts raced in synchronous chaos as the world outside dissolved into nothing but the sound of their breathing and the thunder of passion neither had the strength to refuse. Before we continue with this gripping tale, dear viewers, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss a single moment of what's about to unfold. The rain fell heavy over the Itaewon district, like God had opened a faucet and forgotten to turn it off. Zara pulled her thin hoodie tighter as she navigated the crowded streets, her sneakers splashing through puddles that reflected the neon glow of hostess bars and underground clubs. The smell of street food mixed with cigarette smoke and perfume, a chaotic symphony of Seoul's nightlife. She'd only been in the city for 2 years, plucked from Lagos at 21 with dreams and a work visa that barely covered her rent. Her adoptive Korean parents had passed years ago, leaving her with their surname and not much else. Now the clubs were her classroom in survival, the bars her textbooks in endurance. She'd learned quickly that beauty and a willingness to work could keep the bills paid, even if it meant swallowing her dignity with every drink she served. The underground club where she worked sat wedged between a love hotel and a shuttered restaurant, accessible only through a narrow staircase that smelled like spilled liquor and broken hopes. Zara tied her apron as the manager, a gruff Korean man named Tae-oh, counted the register. "You're cutting it close again," he said without looking up. Zara shrugged. "The city doesn't sleep, so why should I?" The club filled quickly as night deepened. Salarymen loosening ties, couples pressed into booths, a few lone predators surveying the scene like hawks. Zara moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her smile automatic, her attention selective. Around midnight, a man slid onto a bar stool at the counter. His tailored charcoal suit looked like it cost more than her monthly rent. He ordered in perfect English, something about appreciating authenticity. Then he slid a cream-colored envelope across the bar. Inside was an address and a single line: midnight gathering, discreet service, triple your weekly earnings. Zara's stomach twisted. She'd heard rumors about the private events hosted by Seoul's wealthiest, most dangerous men, the kind of parties where fortunes changed hands and indiscretions were buried. No questions asked, she repeated more to herself than him. He smiled, a thin razor of a thing. Then you're perfect. By midnight, she was in a borrowed emerald dress that clung to her curves like it had been painted on. A driver picked her up in a black Mercedes, the interior smelling of leather and expensive cologne. They drove through the city's heart until the neon gave way to glass towers. The venue was an unmarked building with underground access, its interior a cathedral of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers hung like imprisoned stars. Velvet ropes cordoned off VIP areas where men in $1,000 suits spoke in coded language. Zara received her instructions from a cold-faced coordinator: serve, disappear, never speak, keep moving, never hesitate. Most importantly, don't draw attention. She carried trays of champagne through crowds of predators dressed as businessmen. Conversations turned to brutal mergers and hostile takeovers. Hands reached without permission. Eyes assessed her like she was inventory. Then the temperature in the room shifted. A man entered flanked by bodyguards, and suddenly the entire space held its breath. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that looked carved from obsidian and intention. His eyes swept the room with the casual confidence of someone who owned everything he surveyed. Kang Dmitri. Even new in the city, Zara had heard his name whispered in terrified reverence. Leader of the Kim Triad, one of Seoul's most ruthless criminal organizations. He wore his power like most men wore cologne, invisible but unmistakable. Zara kept her head down, focusing on her tray until her elbow caught the edge of a pillar. Champagne flutes cascaded across a chest of midnight blue silk. The glass shattered against marble. Liquid pooled like spilled secrets. The crowd froze. Dimitri looked down at his ruined shirt, then up at the woman responsible. For a breathless moment, his gaze locked on hers. His expression was unreadable, dangerous, but something flickered behind those dark eyes. Interest, hunger, recognition of something he hadn't known he was searching for. "I'm so sorry," Zara stammered, reaching for napkins. "I didn't see. I'm clumsy, His hand caught her wrist. Not rough, just firm enough to stop her words mid-apology. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice low enough that only she could hear it beneath the ambient noise of the gathering. The coordinator's warnings echoed in her skull. "Don't engage. Don't speak unnecessarily." "Zara," she heard herself say. "Just Zara." He repeated it like he was committing it to memory, tasting the syllables. Staff usually disappear after incidents like this. "But you're still here." Her pulse hammered. "I was trying to fix it." His jaw tightened. Someone called for him from across the room. He released her slowly, deliberately, his fingers trailing down her wrist as if reluctant to break contact. "Find the private lounge on the east wing, 3rd floor. Be there in 20 minutes, he instructed before dissolving back into the crowd. Zara's hands trembled as she gathered the broken glass. What just happened? She didn't know whether to follow his instructions or flee the building entirely. But as the night deepened and the champagne flowed endless, curiosity and desperation made her choice for her. The private lounge was obscured by heavy curtains and guarded by men with dead eyes. They let her pass, without a word, as if Dimitri had already announced her arrival to the universe. The room beyond was all shadows and luxury. A leather couch faced floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering sprawl of Seoul. He stood silhouetted against the city lights, having changed into another suit, this one black as sin. He didn't turn when she entered. "Zara," he said, the sound of her name in his mouth making her breath catch. "You came." "I shouldn't have," she whispered, "and yet here you are." He finally turned, his gaze sweeping over her in a way that made her skin feel too tight. "I don't even know you." The words came out as a question. "You will?" His fingers found hers and the world tilted. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable as gravity. His mouth claimed hers with a desperation that matched her own, tasting like danger and desire, and the kind of choice that couldn't be unmade. Her hands buried themselves in his hair while his found the zipper of her dress. They moved together, as if choreographed by fate itself, bodies learning each other with urgent precision. The room spun around them, his hands traced paths across her skin that burned. Her name became a prayer on his lips. Clothes fell away like barriers being demolished. The couch became their universe, the city lights their only witnesses. Time lost all meaning. There was only the fever of skin, the wild racing of hearts, the sweetness of surrender. When dawn began to creep across the windows, reality started to bleed back in. Zara became aware of the weight of his body against hers, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the slight ache of muscles used and loved. The first feeling to return was panic. What had she done? Who had she become? When she opened her eyes, morning light was already claiming the room. His side of the bed was empty, still warm but abandoned. Sophie sat up slowly, wrapping the silk sheet around herself like armor. The penthouse was breathtakingly beautiful and completely impersonal. Glass and metal and money, but no trace of the man who'd claimed her in the dark. A note rested on the nightstand written in precise English. "You'll understand soon enough." Beside it lay a black card with only a silver emblem, a twisted serpent eating its own tail. She dressed quickly, her mind reeling. When she opened the door to leave, a man in a charcoal suit blocked the corridor. "The car is waiting," he said without inflection. "Where?" she asked. "Somewhere safe." The drive through Seoul felt like travelling through a dream. Zara watched the familiar streets blur past, the card burning in her pocket like a coal. The driver deposited her outside her apartment building with the same wordless efficiency he'd maintained throughout the journey. As the car pulled away, she noticed another vehicle parked across the street, engine running. She was being watched. She knew this the way animals know when they're being hunted. That night, her boss called. "Zara, listen carefully. Don't come back to work. Pack what matters and leave the city." The bar had burned 3 hours ago. Fire, they said. Arson. Bodies in the aftermath. Teo's among them. Her hands went numb. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because men are looking for you. Men with very bad intentions." The voice on the phone belonged to someone she didn't know, but the warning was unmistakable. "They think you're connected to someone powerful. That makes you a target." Zara packed a single bag with trembling fingers. Cash, documents, and the black card she didn't understand. By dawn, she was on a bus heading south toward Gwangju, watching Seoul disappear in the rearview mirror like a city she'd imagined into being. She spent 5 years running. Gwangju became her hiding place, a smaller city where no one asked questions and she could disappear into the grind of survival. She worked housekeeping in hotels, scrubbing floors and cleaning toilets, always paid in cash, always careful. She worked nights and slept in days, afraid that if she let her guard down, the world she'd escaped would reach through the darkness and pull her back. Then came the sickness that wouldn't leave, morning nausea that lingered past noon, aching breasts, the certainty that crystallized when the test showed 2 lines. She was pregnant, alone, hunted. The realization came with a crushing weight of impossibility. An abortion seemed like the only rational choice. A single woman with no family, no security, no future. But when she pressed her hand against her stomach, something shifted inside her. Not logic, not reason, just the raw, fierce instinct to protect whatever was growing inside her. She kept the baby. 2 of them, actually, a shock during the ultrasound that left her gasping. Twin girls, the technician said. Identical. The doctors said it was uncommon but not unheard of. Zara called them Amara and Zuri. She worked doubled shifts to afford better housing, better food, better chances. Pregnancy hardened her body and her resolve. Her back ached constantly. Her ankles swelled. Landlords turned her away when they noticed her expanding belly. She found room after room in the worst parts of town and kept moving, kept working, kept surviving. The girls were born on a cold November night, without fanfare or celebration. Just pain and blood and the moment when she held them for the first time and understood that love could be an act of rebellion. Amara had Dimitri's sharp cheekbones and his arresting dark eyes. Zuri had Zara's mouth and the same curious intensity she'd possessed before fear reshaped her. 5 winters passed before Zara dared to return to Seoul. She told herself the danger had faded, that 5 years was enough time for the world to forget a face. In truth, she was tired of running. The cities between her and her past were blurring together. Her daughters needed roots, they needed schools and stability, and the kind of normal life that Gwangju could never provide. The job posting came from a logistics company headquartered in central Seoul, looking for experienced administrative staff. The position was perfect. The salary reasonable. She convinced herself it was safe. The girls were 5 now, bilingual little beings with Korean on their tongues, and Zara's Nigerian accent threaded through their English. Amara was serious and observant, watching the world with her father's analytical gaze. Zuri was her mother's daughter, all brightness and questions and infectious joy. They noticed everything when they returned to Seoul. The apartment overlooking a bustling market, the electric hum of the city they'd been born in but never truly known. The daycare centre where they'd spend their days while their mother worked. On her first day of employment, Zara dressed with careful deliberation. A navy blazer over a cream blouse. black trousers pressed to sharp precision. Her braids were swept into a neat crown on her head. Professional. Forgettable. A ghost. The lobby of Kim Triad Holdings gleamed with marble and ambition. A massive installation of twisted metal hung from the ceiling, forming the silhouette of a phoenix rising from ash. Zara felt something cold slide through her chest as she signed the visitor log. "Welcome," the receptionist said brightly. "The director will want to meet all new staff members. He's on the executive floor." Zara's mouth went dry. "Director?" "That would be Kang Dimitri," the receptionist continued, offering a smile. "Brilliant businessman. Very powerful. Very unmarried," she added with a conspiratorial wink. Zara's hands shook as she entered the elevator. Surely it was a different Dimitri. Seoul was full of men with that name. Coincidence? Nothing more. But her heart was already lying to her, already preparing for impact. The orientation happened in a conference room on the 32nd floor. She took a seat near the back, trying to make herself small. A senior manager droned about company policies and workplace standards. Zara took notes on autopilot, her mind 1,000 miles away. Then the door opened. He entered like gravity itself, shifted to accommodate him. Taller than she remembered, but somehow the same. His suit was tailored to perfection, his hair slicked back to reveal the sharp architecture of his face. But his eyes, those obsidian eyes, they were exactly as she recalled. Black ice and hunger and intelligence that missed nothing. Kang Dimitri. Her breath caught in her throat. The manager introduced him as the company director. He scanned the room, his gaze passing over the assembled interns with the casualness of someone accustomed to assessing threats. When he reached Zara, his expression flickered. For the space of a heartbeat, recognition blazed across his features like a fire catching hold. Then it vanished behind a mask of professional indifference. He delivered a brief speech about excellence and loyalty. His voice was deeper than she remembered, rougher, but still carrying that edge of command that made people obey without question. When he finished, he left without a backward glance, but she felt the weight of his attention linger, a phantom hand against her skin. The whispers started immediately. In the break room, two colleagues exchanged knowing looks as Zara poured coffee. "Did you see how Director Kang stared at the new woman?" One said in Korean. The other giggled. "She's beautiful, but have you seen the director's kids in the company daycare? Same eyes, same cheekbones, same everything." Zara's coffee cup slipped through her fingers and shattered against the tile. Heat flooded her face. She excused herself before they could ask questions, her mind spiraling. They know, or they suspect. And if they suspect, then he definitely knows. The message came through her company phone before the day ended. Executive office. Now. Zara's legs felt like they were made of water as she rode the elevator to the top floor. His office was a fortress of glass and shadow, windows framing the Han River in silver and steel. He stood with his back to her, silhouetted against the panorama of the city he likely owned. "Close the door," he said without turning. His voice was exactly as she'd heard it in her nightmares and her dreams. She obeyed, the click of the door sealing them in a tension so thick she could barely breathe. When he turned, his gaze locked on hers. 5 years, he said quietly. "You've been gone for 5 years. Zara forced herself to meet his eyes. "I had my reasons." His expression hardened. "A bar burned down in Itaewon. The owner died. Witnesses reported seeing a foreign woman escape the flames. The same woman," he continued, stepping closer, "who left my penthouse that same morning." Zara swallowed hard. "I didn't know anyone. I wasn't connected." "Don't lie to me, Zara." His voice carried the weight of command, the certainty of someone used to having his will become reality. "I care nothing for lies. What I care about is why you're back in my city. Who sent you? A rival organization trying to use you against me?" "I'm not a spy," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "I came back because I needed work. Because I was tired of running. Because I have. His eyes flicked to something on her phone, a daycare application left open on her screen, children who deserve more than exile. His jaw tightened. You have children. Not a question. A statement of fact. Yes. Kang Dmitri studied her for a long moment, his gaze moving across her face like he was reading something written in a language only he understood. Their father. She opened her mouth, but no words came. He already knew. Somehow? Impossibly. He already knew. So what happens now? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. That, he said, stepping closer until the space between them crackled with unfinished business, is what we need to discuss. And viewers, this is where episode 2 begins, where secrets are revealed and choices become dangerous. Subscribe now and turn on those notifications, because what's coming next will change everything. You will not want to miss a single moment of what unfolds between Zara and Dmitri.